So another day of walking around here. Just want to make sure we're live. I've made some changes to the setup. People who saw last night's episode of More Pain, that's ordinarily a sponsor exclusive, but Mike Moore, the editor of TruePundit.com, and myself wanted to make sure as many people as possible got to see the emergency hospital being set up by Samaritan's Purse up there by Central Park, by, that was a little close. Central Park over there. Yeah, we're live. Samaritan's Purse is setting up an emergency hospital next to Mount Sinai over there by Central Park. And what we learned yesterday that I did not know is that Central Park Emergency Hospital is only for Mount Sinai patients. I want everybody to understand, I don't blame Samaritan's Purse for that. I think they're doing excellent work. A lot of people had a lot of things to say. We met Melissa, who was a very kind young woman. She seemed sincere. I'm sure she's there for the right reasons, and Melissa's doing the right thing. She wants to help people of New York and people who are suffering from the coronavirus. We've heard today that emergency medicine and medical simulation specialist Dr. Colleen Smith of the Elmhurst Hospital Center has been tested positive for coronavirus. And certainly we wish Dr. Smith a speedy recovery. People who've been watching the channel are going to be aware that Dr. Colleen Smith is the emergency room physician over there at Elmhurst Hospital Center. She was reporting with the New York Times that it was a very serious condition. According to Dr. Smith, there were not enough ventilators for the amazing overload of patients that they were experiencing there. Other stories indicating that people were dying by the refrigerator truckload. We've even seen some questionable videos, can't be directly tied to necessarily any hospital, but they are purporting to come from, I think, Brooklyn, where it shows a truck and what appear to be body bags being loaded in there. It seems like very insensitive treatment of the deceased and not the type of thing that hospital workers should be recording. Again, I want people to be very cautious when we see these things that appear to be evidence. We got to really scrutinize them carefully. There's a lot of new viewers on Crowdsource the Truth. I want to thank everybody who's been subscribing to the YouTube channel. We're in striking distance of 100,000 subscribers, so please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, like and share the videos if you think they contain information that people you know would find useful. We have heard from the mayor, Bill de Blasio, absolutely incompetent schmuck. I don't know how this guy got elected, and it's a good thing he dropped out of the presidential campaign because he is not presidential. But he made a call that's gone out now in international news saying that we need more ambulances. But people who've been watching for the past 2 weeks, we're working on 3 weeks here, they're going to know that that idle ambulance sitting there is not an anomaly. That's what we've been seeing all week. I am detecting that there's somewhat of a, I don't want to call it normal, but there's a new sort of vibe coming over New York where people are settling into this lockdown state to some extent. I wasn't able to live stream the More Pain show last night because my data plan has been absolutely blown out. Even though I have the, what AT&T considers unlimited data on my main phone, unlimited apparently doesn't mean the same thing to AT&T that it does to me or other people. When you reach a certain limit, they still let you access data, but at 128 kilobits per second. When I'm live streaming over here, we're going out at about 2,000 megabits per second, so that's quite a restriction. People who are watching the in-studio Crowdsource the Truth shows are going to know that we recently made an upgrade to full HD and 6,000 KB or MBS. Yeah, something like that. Whatever it is, a lot of data going through there. So Had to get a new SIM chip this morning, and they're difficult to find. There's not that many cell phone stores open, and I was lucky enough to have a very kind and generous sponsor of the channel send a sponsorship payment that allowed me to purchase a new SIM chip. So we're now back to live streaming. I think it's important that I do the live streams because we really don't know what might happen. I've been reporting that there are a number of people on the street who, in my opinion, appear to be desperate, don't have a place to go. I was on the A train yesterday and I made a big mistake by not photographing what was going on there. But then again, the people who would have been the subject of those photographs would undoubtedly have become quite irritated. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, put out a tweet earlier this morning, some kind of nonsense about how there are too many people around still, so they're going to close, what did he say, the parks? I guess little kids can't be allowed to have fun. People who have kids right now who are young and don't understand what's going on must be having a particularly difficult time. Everybody's got their own unique hardship as a result of this. Parents of children are going to have a difficult time explaining to them what's going on. We're going to have single people who are very lonely, all kinds of unique circumstances. I've got the the chat going here now, so that's kind of nice. I can see that we've got some social engineers in the chat. And I think it's important that we talk about that a little bit. People who are new to Crowdsource the Truth maybe haven't heard me speak about social engineering that much, but it's a dangerous thing. And when it comes to stupid comments on YouTube videos, those are fairly innocuous. Bunch of idiots with nothing to do with their time, sitting in their mother's basement, sitting in their own basement, sitting in no basement. But they're basically putting in comments to dissuade you from listening to me. And they want to tell you things that would cause you to believe that there's something wrong with listening to me. What's going on Park Avenue here that it's blocked off? What's with the barricade? How come it's blocked over there? They're making a hospital on Park Avenue? Why in the middle of Park Avenue? You don't know. I don't think they're making a hospital in the middle of Park Avenue. They're probably clearing 28th Street to facilitate the creation of a hospital. But I'm glad that we're talking about this because this is the subject I want to address today. People saw we went to the emergency hospital that's being constructed right next to Mount Sinai, and that's a good thing that the Samaritan's Purse people are doing on their own time, their own expense. Hopefully that will help people. I'm a little concerned that sort of effort is happening to help people who are maybe in Mount Sinai, but it's not able to help people who are over at Elmhurst, Queens, where we're hearing that it's apocalyptic. As I mentioned, we heard the New York Times reporting that...
Hi.
Hi.
I just saw the video that you posted and I shared it with my friends.
I'm Jason. Nice to meet you.
I'm Allie. Nice to meet you. I've been talking about this for a while, and
we're live right now. You're on.
Are we?
You're on the show.
Cool.
So let's.
What hospitals have you been to?
Well, I've been to many. Why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hello.
What's your name?
Allie Quinn.
Aren't you worried about getting coronavirus?
No, I'm not.
I gotta tell you, if I was gonna get it, I'd want it from you.
I just went to the dentist, but
where is the dentist?
Well, no, I just picked up some aligners, but there was like one person working
Jackie,
in the office. No, Smile Cafe. Can I take a picture with you and send it to my friends?
Please do. This is great. People all around the city and all around the world are watching Crowdsource the Truth.
Yes.
What'd you say your name was?
Allie Quinn.
Allie Quinn.
Sorry.
That's great. Thank you, Allie. Email it to me, truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org.
Okay, I will. Thank
Be
you.
safe, okay? If you're going to get coronavirus, getting it from somebody like Allie Quinn, there's worse ways you could go. Thank you, Allie. Good to see you there. I just wanted to say, I missed the video that was playing, but if people were watching it, you can see that the New York Times reported via tweet that Dr. Colleen Smith has been diagnosed, or I should say tested positive with coronavirus. And I can't remember if this was the tweet, but at the time that I was looking at it, there were 33 comments on it, which is just coincidence, of course. But there's so much going on with this Dr. Colleen Smith, and I'm curious about it. Obviously, we want to make sure that the doctor is healthy and safe. There were a lot of questions about her decision to post videos from inside the ER or the ICU or whatever that might have been that we saw there in the New York Times. MDs that I spoke to felt that that was really poor judgment on the doctor's part. I did contact a HIPAA lawyer, a lawyer here in New York City who specializes in HIPAA laws, and although he's not my lawyer and didn't represent me on anything, didn't want to go on the show, which is understandable, he generally had to say that it's tricky to comment on hypothetical situations, and this is true. People who know the law are going to learn that everything is unique. Each case is unique, and there's a ton of details and a ton of things that can go one way or the other. But the guy said to me that there's no private cause of action with HIPAA. And what I understand that to mean, of course, I'm not a lawyer and this is not legal advice, but you can't, as a private individual, sue somebody for a HIPAA violation. It's a criminal kind of a thing, like a federal violation, or I don't even know if it's criminal, but it's got to do with the licensing of the doctor or whatever. And the lawyer spoke about violations of fiduciary responsibility. Now, obviously, showing a patient's face or anything that is identifiable with regard to their medical condition and their identity would be a violation. But there's some gray area as to whether what Dr. Smith did was or was not a HIPAA violation. Again, I think a lawyer who was representing you, if you were a doctor inquiring about should I do this, would almost certainly tell you not to, because we're living in a world where whatever the law is, if there's even a semblance of wrongdoing, problems can arise. People who are regular viewers of Crowdsource the Truth are going to know that one of the things that social engineers have been doing, because their normal taunts and harassment haven't been effective in stopping me from reporting on facts and details that certain people don't want coming out, they've attempted to sue me. There are 2 active lawsuits against me, and boy, they really flared up yesterday. The irritants that are involved in that lawsuit, who are social engineers, they were both hitting me yesterday. It's strange, and it coincided with other stupid social engineering attacks, one from another fake doctor. Sorry, first fake doctor that I'm aware of. I am not implying that Dr. Colleen Smith is anything other than a board-certified emergency room physician. She is that. Someone had posted a comment questioning that earlier in the week, and I want to assure everyone that Dr. Colleen Smith is in fact a licensed physician. She's also a specialist in medical simulation, which is another thing that people have been very curious about. I got a few more videos in here I want us to take a look at. People are concerned by this thing in ABC News, which says that inmates are being released, violent inmates from Rikers Island, for concerns over coronavirus. And then when I tried to click on the link, oh, page unavailable. So, I mean, what's the deal, ABC News? Are we the people? Is it incumbent on us to run down the facts of every news story? Are criminals being released from Rikers Island? Because if that's true, that sounds dangerous. Why do that article was talking about 2 guys that were involved in like a armed robbery or something. That's not the same thing that Sean Atwood was talking about the other day. If you want to release people who got arrested for smoking weed, that's a lot different than somebody who's involved in an armed robbery. And as a matter of fact, in the absence of a legally mandated lockdown, I think you might be able to convince a lot of people to stay home if they thought that armed robbers were roaming the streets, and particularly if it was clear that the NYPD was nowhere to be seen. Even if you've seen NYPD cars around, the overwhelming majority of them have been empty, or NYPD traffic, which are not armed officers and they are not trained in dealing with criminals. Those guys just write tickets and stuff. But as I was saying, there seems to be kind of a new normal going on. There's a certain level of traffic. I was out and around earlier today looking for this SIM chip, and I was by Trader Joe's. Huge line at Trader Joe's. Did a little shopping myself over at Whole Foods. They have not had soap like liquid hand soap or disinfectant. There's almost no disinfectant cleaning products, anything that says disinfectant, Lysol or anything that sells that says that it kills viruses. There's an NYPD traffic van. So I'm not making it up, and it's not a coincidence. Normally I see a ton of NYPD vehicles all over New York. Where are they? Where's the NYPD? They're not around. Now, I don't know, it seems like there's another ambulance, not with the siren, not racing around. I see sirens on that looks like a Con Edison truck over there, maybe fixing the electricity or something. It is a beautiful day today, very sunny. I think we are into spring, right? March 20-something. So it's spring. There would ordinarily be a ton of people around. Here it looks like people waiting in line for a pizza. My God. I think the last time I saw that, it was a YouTube video about Cuba. They're waiting to get into the Trader Joe's. Now wait a minute. Why does every Trader Joe's around town have a gigantic line, and Whole Foods by me had no line? I'd have to check it again now. I didn't look at it before I left. It was this morning around 8 a.m. there was no line. But the temperament of the employees at Whole Foods was not good. I asked them about this news article I saw yesterday, which claimed that there was an imminent strike, that Whole Foods workers were going to be walking out. Now, you having a nice day?
Oh, wonderful.
So why are you giving me the finger?
Because you're filming me without my
You're in
permission.
public, asshole. Stick that finger up your ass. Yeah. You got a problem, buddy. See, we got some jerks here in New York. When you're in public, it's as much my right to run a camera as it is your right to not be seen. If you don't want to be seen, stay home. It's a public street, and that guy wasn't even the subject of the video until he opened his stupid mouth. So, sorry about that outburst, everybody. I'm generally a very nice person, but when somebody comes at me, I don't allow that to stand. So anybody recognizes that guy, he likes giving people the finger on the street. Nice guy. Anyway, so I called Elmhurst Hospital because I think it's a matter of public concern if they have doctors on staff with coronavirus who are seeing patients. What if you go into the hospital with sniffling and a sore throat and you think you have coronavirus, but you just have the flu, or maybe you've been watching the news too much and that makes you feel like you might be sick, and then you meet with a doctor who is positive for coronavirus and you get it. We've heard that you shouldn't even go out of your house because you might give people coronavirus and they could die, and that would be your fault. Frankly, I reject that line of reasoning because, I mean, look, there's a way to act responsibly and there's a way to act irresponsibly, and certainly if you feel sick and have symptoms and are coughing and sneezing and go outside and sneeze on somebody, or if you have a fever and you get on an airplane where you're going to be there for 6 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is, that might be putting other people at risk. But, you know, walking around on the street, I'm further than 6 feet away from anybody. That jerk on the line who would have not been noticed at all had he not opened his stupid mouth and erected his finger, nobody would have paid any attention to him. But now he is remembered in infamy 100 years from now when people look back on this coronavirus ridiculousness. That jackass will be remembered for what he just did. Sorry for the outburst again, but it is New York. Right, so I called the hospital because I wanted to ask them, you know, what their policy was on allowing physicians to run their video cameras inside the ICU, inside the ER. We're going to remember that Dr. Smith did not want to speak to me, even though she's back in the news again. I saw something about her on NBC News, I believe, and the New York Times put out that tweet that she's got coronavirus. Why are her communications not coming through the official, oh, did I remember to bring this? I think I forgot to make a video of it, but it's interesting to note that the Elmhurst Hospital has a separate phone number for their media department, and then all the other Queens hospitals in the New York City health system have a separate number. So I spoke to their media representative, their public information officer, or whatever she was, a woman named Ms. Butler. She was polite, and she didn't know why they had a separate number all for them. There were a lot of threes in it, a couple 33s there. It's a coincidence, definitely, I think. But, you know, after getting on the phone and initially sort of seeming like she was going to answer my questions, she quickly suggested that I email the questions because she didn't seem comfortable answering them on the fly. I was asking questions like, does the hospital have staff members who are positive for coronavirus but are continuing to see patients, and how do they deal with that? It's a difficult problem to resolve, so I'm not trying to be difficult for Dr. Smith, but there are a number of things we want to know. She has still refused to answer the question, did she interact with or study under Bill Ayers during her time at the University of Chicago? People who are unfamiliar with the University of Chicago or Bill Ayers should look into the Weather Underground, what that is, what their goals were in the 1950s, and what has become of them today. Bill Ayers is still alive. He was a terrorist. The New York Times on September 11th, 2001, seemed to think that Bill Ayers was a war protester and some sort of counterculture hero. He's a criminal. He's a terrorist. He was bombing, and they did a bunch of things that resulted in death. And he was a mentor to Barack Obama. Obama's first senatorial campaign financing event took place at Bill Ayers' house. Now, here is a van with the medical examiner's logo emblazoned on the side, Dr. Paul Cottrell, non-MD. I hope you're listening. There's no embolism on the side of this van, but there is a logo emblazoned on it. And you can see now that this area where the makeshift morgue is has been closed off by police line. That makes total sense. I don't think you'd want a lot of people walking around where there is a morgue, but we should also recall that all of these refrigerator vans and makeshift morgues, that's procedural stuff.
You want me to say?
Huh?
You want me to say about
Is there anything you'd like to say?
Huh?
Would you like to say anything?
These dead bodies next to us, how do we know we're going to get contaminated or not?
It's a good question.
You know?
So where do you live? Right around here?
I live in the shelter.
You live in the shelter. This is a men's shelter here?
Yes, this is a men's shelter.
And what's the conditions like in there?
The conditions, everybody's piled up on one another. They're not giving us no masses or anything. They're not helping us, you know.
You're lucky enough to have the shelter. There's a lot of people who are on the street.
Yeah.
I was on the train, and there were a lot of people who
I know.
weren't wearing clean clothes, hadn't had a
They
shower.
can come to the shelter.
How do they get to the shelter?
By taking the 6 train or taking the bus, you can always get to the shelter.
And there's capacity there for more people?
there's
Aren't you
capacity.
worried about getting coronavirus from all the people living together?
Well, I live by God, though. You know.
Do they test you? Have they given you any medical
No,
attention?
they haven't done any tests. That'd be nice if they do some tests.
And what else could the city be doing to help you?
Pretty much getting me into housing.
Housing, permanent housing.
Yes.
Why aren't they doing anything? Have they made any announcements in the shelter for?
No.
No. All right. Thanks for your help, man.
Everything's been on hold.
Have a good day. Take care of
All right.
yourself. See, that's interesting to get somebody's viewpoint who's inside there, who actually knows what's going on. But apparently there are facilities, perhaps, for homeless people to take advantage of. I wonder, you know, what the capacity is. Do you work for the hospital? He said yes, but he doesn't want to talk. Well, I mean, again, these look like refrigerator trucks. We've been down here the other day, so let me take a step back. Yeah, these are definite refrigerator trucks, but I want people to understand that the placement of refrigerator trucks here does not mean they're loaded up with dead people. This is a precaution based on a medical emergency that is standard procedure when there's a citywide emergency where there's large casualties expected. How you guys doing?
Hey, how you doing?
You guys feeling okay? I'm live streaming. You want to be on camera?
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm a little upset.
What are you upset about?
Yeah, I'm upset because, I'm stuck in Bellevue right now due to... Yeah, no. I'm mad because I'm stuck in Bellevue, due to parole, I had an apartment. My mom died from 9/11 attacks.
Whoa.
Yeah, she had cancer. She just died in July.
Oh, man,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
So I just started doing the victim
Now, wait a minute. Your mom was a first responder? Or
No, she used to work for Dow Jones doing the mail delivery.
Wow.
And she used to go from office to office, but that day she argued with her boss. Her boss made her go outside and do outside deliveries. And when the towers hit, the debris hit. But she
and the
just
chemicals
died last
and
year.
everything got in her?
Yeah, she got the cancer. She got pink hair.
No
cancer.
compensation?
We just started doing it, and I got a lawyer for it. But now it seems like, because she died, they mandated me to shelter. She left me her apartment. Parole made me leave that apartment and stay in the shelter. I've been in shelter system 22 months.
Oh my God.
And now I'm a little upset that they got this here because I'm scared I might catch
Got
corona.
what? Oh, this morgue, you mean?
Yeah, all the morgues,
So have you seen any dead people going into
No,
these
I
things?
smell it. You can
smell dead people?
It's pungent. It's the odor. You can't mistake it. If you've been around a dead body, you smell an area where the dead body been at for a long period of time, it's the same
I'm not
stench.
smelling it right now.
I asked them numerous times. I asked the workers numerous times. They said the same thing. This is where the dead body's at.
But where are you smelling it? Right here?
Yeah, from here to the corner. Once you get to the corner, you can smell the odor.
Get me off the
Oh, yeah.
phone.
he
All right,
wanna
don't
be
worry
on.
about it.
Take that.
Don't do
Don't do block.
All right, listen, I'm going to see you guys later. Have a nice day, okay? Okay, so there we go. So they say they want to talk, and then it becomes... See how quickly something like that can turn? Got to be very careful. So they're saying they smell dead bodies right over there. I do not smell that. Again, I wanted those guys' point of view. When you give them an opportunity to speak, hopefully the mayor will see this, the governor will see this, people can see this and share it around. They definitely don't want me walking in over here. We don't have the army around anymore. I guess this thing is all set up. We got the medical examiner. So let's see, how do I get back there without getting these guys on camera and getting beaten up? Let's just turn the camera this way. And we'll point it at the trucks so that they know it's not looking at them. All right, so let's see if these guys are gonna tangle with me here. Sure, let's go up to the corner there. Okay. So keep talking.
2015, I was shot by police.
Shot?
Yes. I got a bullet in my foot right now.
What happened? Why were you shot?
I got shot right here.
Why? What do you got? Sorry? I cannot? You said it's a public building. Why can't I film in a public building? All right. All right. I said I can't film, so watch out for that.
Oh, watch out for this.
See? So people who think I should stay and fight with homeless people, there's a friggin' crew of them right there. Hey, I gotta run, man. I'll catch you later. So you gotta be careful walking around. There's a lot of interesting people here. And certainly you mess with that too long and something's gonna happen. So I don't know what that cop is doing, but people can see what's going on. Those guys say they're smelling dead bodies. I didn't smell a dead body over there. Not saying there aren't any, but this is a standard procedure. The medical examiner's office told me that setting up this kind of makeshift morgue, it's done in anticipation of casualties. Now this is the office of the chief medical examiner. And you would imagine that anyone who dies in New York City is coming here so that their bodies can be examined and we can learn more about the coronavirus, because it seems right now they don't know too much about it. If they're allowing doctors to stay in the ER with cell phone cameras running after they've been positively tested for coronavirus, how can it be so dangerous for me or anyone to just be walking around, crew of homeless guys sitting out there, whoever was giving me the advice to not be fearful of homeless people? That is poor advice. I think that you should be cautious around anyone that you don't know, and people who don't have money and don't have a place to live and don't have food and are telling you stories about how they're being shot by the police probably aren't the safest people to hang out with. Now, we're back at NYU Langone Health. We've been hearing, I don't want to make these videos redundant, but of course it is necessary, I think, that we revisit these spots because we're being told that, you know, exponential growth of numbers. Nobody's coming in the main lobby entrance. So this would be where people would arrive on foot. This would be where people would arrive in their private cars. Definitely looks remarkably calm. I'm not going to go inside there, but we will take a look at the emergency entrance. The main purpose for today's trip was not to tangle with a bunch of homeless dudes, but to head over to the UN and see what's happening there. Want to try to ask them why the UN is not building a triage hospital in Elmhurst, Queens. Why is the governor not building a triage hospital in Elmhurst, Queens? We've got a triage hospital outside Mount Sinai where there is no apocalyptic overload of the ER. We see 1, 2, 3, 4 ambulances here. The incompetent mayor of New York City, Mr. Bill de Blasio, was making a call for more ambulances, saying that the city's EMTs were under a historic crush of massive influx of calls. This is the emergency walk-in entrance, and no one is walking in. Here's another ambulance. 1, 2, 3, 4 ambulances parked. 5 ambulances parked. No drivers. Oh, here's one going out. There's FDNY going out. I don't hear sirens. Hey, can I chat with you guys for 1 second? The mayor said you guys are experiencing historic number of calls. Is that true?
No comment.
No comment?
No comment.
Aren't you guys too busy to even stop here and talk to me?
Yes, sir.
So why are you talking to me?
Stay safe.
Okay, so no comment. The article, by the way, which said that they were experiencing a historic increase in calls, went on to say that it was a 50% increase from this time last year, which, pardon me, it doesn't sound like a pandemic. It sounds more like a news reaction. If you turn on the news every day and they're telling you that everybody's going to get coronavirus, and then you have a little sniffle, I think you might call an ambulance. So anyway, we're going to head over to the UN. We're here on Manhattan's east side, and I figured on the walk it would make sense. No, it says traffic. NYPD traffic. Well, I don't know. Oh, here's another entrance to the hospital that I was unaware of. Let's look at this. Now, they got a taxi standing on its nose there on a dog. Can people see that? I don't know. Does this look crazy? Does this look super overrun? Taxi on a dog. I bet you the burrito selling truck will have information. Is it absolutely crazy in the hospital, overrun with coronavirus victims?
Not that I know of. I just started my shift.
Today?
Yes.
So as of today, prior to today, it has not been overrun with coronavirus victims?
No.
Did you guys hear about what's going on in Elmhurst, Queens?
No. I know.
They said it's apocalyptic over there. I think your colleague is telling you not to talk to me, right?
No. No.
Oh.
No.
There's a doctor in Elmhurst, Queens, who was just diagnosed positive for coronavirus.
Wow.
Do you think she should be removed from seeing patients, or is it? Of course.
Yeah.
Would that be the policy here at NYU if a staff member is positive for coronavirus? It seems like you'd want to keep them away from the patients, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that there's one hospital in the city that seems to be under pressure. I appreciate you talking to me. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Be safe, ladies.
Thank you.
And thanks for what you're doing. You're very brave.
Thank you.
So there we go. There's somebody talking to us. It's interesting. That's a hospital employee. Oh, look, there's another ambulance across the street. And there's another NYPD traffic car. Those little hybrid cars, that's like a Ford C-Max, or I don't know what that is, some kind of little tiny vehicle. That's not a regular NYPD car. That's a traffic car. They just drive around giving people parking tickets and basically, doing that. Oh, radio repair. Who do we know that likes radios? Yeah. Well, I don't know. Doesn't look like an overwhelming amount of activity at the Kimmel entrance of the Hassenfield Children's Hospital. Well, okay, so that explains the dog. We want to make children feel safe. But at least this part of the hospital is not overrun with coronavirus victims. And we've been hearing all this mixed information. Some people say it's only affecting the very old and people with comorbidity, other things that cause them to die who also have coronavirus. We've heard that it's, okay, so another NYPD traffic. Where is NYPD, regular patrol? Well, what's that guy doing at the homeless center while one of the people he's supposed to be guarding or keeping from attacking people who might walk there is threatening me? It's interesting, isn't it? Let's see what the comments are saying. So I'm walking to the UN right now. I kind of doubt they'll let me walk in, but I'm going to walk right into the UN if I'm able. My personal opinion is that the UN are a bunch of jerks. Go to Central Park. Joy, I was just at Central Park yesterday. Why they can't speak? Well, Brandy, they're not official spokespeople for the hospital, and certainly if they say anything on camera that goes out in public and the hospital doesn't like it, I suppose it could be grounds for removal. It's just interesting that, most people don't want to speak on camera. The overwhelming majority of... You doing all right? I'm not sure what that guy was saying, but the overwhelming majority of medical professionals that I've spoken with, either on the street or elsewhere, they do not want to go on the record. They don't want to say anything. Personal friends, family members, doctors that I know, even when they're friendly and know me and want to talk to me and tell me their opinions or their observations or other things that they've heard, there's a siren. That could be an ambulance or a cop car. Even when these people want to share information with me, they don't want to go on the record because they are either employed by hospitals for which they are not official spokespeople, and they recognize that any comment they make could put their job at risk, and so they don't want to talk. And then that becomes a real interesting point to consider. Why does Dr. Colleen Smith want to talk so much if she's saying things that contradict the official message from the media office of the hospital that she works for? This is very different than what other medical professionals are doing. And then when I called the media office for Elmhurst Hospital, they also didn't want to talk to me. So I guess they don't want to talk to the media unless you're the New York Times or 60 Minutes Australia or NBC News or any of those things where they can publish a report that doesn't make sense, or they can say that criminals are being released even if they are or aren't. Please double check Central Park. Joy, do you have any idea how large New York City is? And I've been walking all over the place, talking for hours at a time, missing lunch and stuff like that. I do want to ask people, if you are someone who is financially secure and you are able to sponsor Crowdsource the Truth, please do. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. In addition to making it possible for me to make this show and broadcast it to you, you're going to get access to a huge and continually growing library of sponsor-exclusive content that features so many of the guests that everybody has seen this week and last week on some of these tours walking around New York City. You can always sponsor the co-host guest as well on Patreon. They have their own Patreon and in some cases Subscribestar pages. And this is a system that I've put together to help protect the livelihoods of independent content creators who want to bring you news and commentary about things that the New York Times and NBC and 60 Minutes might not want you to know about. And so therefore, a lot of times when me and my guests put out this kind of information on YouTube for free, as it were, it gets blocked by YouTube, our channels get canceled, and we never have an opportunity to gain any ground where the almost 100,000 people who are subscribed to Crowdsource the Truth now, you'd never know about me if it wasn't for the generous sponsors who've been sponsoring the show. So I hope that people will consider doing that only if you and your family are financially secure. A lot of uncertainty right now, so I want to make sure our viewers are safe and their finances are good. Literally chronicling history. That's what I'm trying to do there, in truth, Grace. I think it's important because if everybody just stays locked in their house watching the news, people are now writing to me from all over the world saying, oh, they're telling us that 5 people are dying an hour in New York. And this makes people scared. They're going to stay in their house. You read that Rikers Island killers are released onto the streets. There's no cops anywhere to be seen. This is going to make people want to stay home. And I don't know. I'm very concerned about the impact on society, the impact on the environment. Someone sent me a message about their grandmother who was commenting. I think the woman is about 90. The grandmother was commenting that it's so sad what's happening because during World War II, she recalled waiting in line for food, but at least people were waiting together. And see, what's happening is when people are locked in their houses being cranky, you get jackasses like that guy outside Whole Foods giving me the finger. They're not really creating an environment where people want to help each other and reach out to one another. You know, it's a caustic environment that's being fomented by all this. And I think right now we're looking at one of the sources of globalist evil. A lot of people have a high opinion of the UN. I am not one of those people. This is essentially the heart of this globalist plan to create a one world government that is presided over by a class of intellectual elites and world bankers. David Hawkins speaks about this quite a bit on his regular Friday show, Discovery CSI, and David has named a lot of names. Brings me back to social engineering. People who have watched Crowdsource the Truth for a while are going to know that I've tangled with a wide variety of social engineers. If you're new to the program, you might be wondering, well, what is social engineering and why does Jason even care about it so much? Social engineering is essentially lying, but it's more complicated than that. A social engineer will attempt to convince you to do something that is not in your best interest, but make you think that it is. Something like, say, lock yourself inside your apartment, because if you even step outside, you could be risking contaminating the world with coronavirus, even if you don't have it. It's that bad. You better stay home. Only Dr. Colleen Smith can tell you what's up with it, or Chris Cuomo, who now has coronavirus. How do they explain that one factor? If we've got Tom Hanks diagnosed with coronavirus, I mean, he's not dead. Why is Tom Hanks alive and a truck full of people in Queens aren't? What's the explanation for that? Why, as certain idiots are putting into the comments, is it dangerous for me to be walking around When I don't feel sick, I'm not exhibiting any symptoms, and I haven't tested positive for coronavirus. But we still don't know if you go over to Queens Elmhurst Medical Center. Hey, do you need a doctor? Are you okay? Are you okay? You all right? You need a doctor? Are you alive? Yeah. This guy's not responding at all. His stomach is moving. Yeah, call 911. Okay, this woman's gonna call 911. Jeez. Whew. I forget what we were talking about there. Approaching the UN here. I don't know if they'll let me inside. Probably. Now wait a minute, what does this say? Single-use plastic. I thought we don't like plastic, it's gonna pollute. Fantastic, no more. Ah, yes, that's what they're saying, no more single-use plastic. Yeah, that's the biggest problem we're facing for sure. So the UN, I've actually never been in here. Closed for May. Hi, hello. How can I go about entering the UN?
The UN is closed until further notice.
Closed until further notice. So you work for the Security Services of the United Nations?
Yes, sir.
How come you're not wearing a coronavirus mask?
We don't have any right now. We're okay.
You're not worried about getting coronavirus?
Well, that's why I'm here.
I can't go in there and speak to the Secretary General?
Not at all. The building is closed.
Are you guys aware that David Rockefeller said that the world is ready for a one world government controlled by intellectual elites and world bankers?
It's not going to happen.
Oh, it's not? Are you aware that he said that?
Yeah, I'm aware.
And you were aware that he donated this land, right?
Yeah, he did. He sure did.
Okay. And you see that guy, Dr. Tedros from the World Health Organization, has he been in here?
I haven't seen him.
But you know who he is, right? You know, he's a diabolical criminal and was a warlord in Ethiopia and has been involved in all kinds of corruption and, you know, things with the Clinton Foundation having to do with Ramboxi. You know about Ramboxi? It's an Indian pharmaceutical company that gave faulty drugs, HIV drugs, to children in Africa. Organizations like the Clinton Foundation and various things that are connected to the UN are involved in this. You guys are providing security for criminals. You should look into it.
Have a nice day.
Okay, have a nice day. As of March 10th, the UN headquarters campus is temporarily closed for the general public and tours are suspended while they work on a one world government plan. Well, that's disappointing. I hope to go in there and do some rabble rousing, if that's what that is. Which is jackassery. I don't know. They definitely wouldn't appreciate anything I would have to say. But doesn't it almost look like that logo is crosshairs on the world, like it's their target, it's in their sights? That's sort of Dali-esque, that sculpture. What is that all about? Well, here we are at the UN. That's disappointing. I thought we might get a little further than the, whatever that was. One of these buildings contains the International Criminal Court, which John Bolton recently told them the United States is not under the jurisdiction of. So this is interesting. Here's somebody rushing over here to tell me to leave. No, letting somebody in. Who do we got in there? Are you going to meet with Tedros? Do you know Tedros? Are you guys worried about coronavirus? You're not wearing a mask. Yeah, they're not worried about it. So I guess they're, I don't know. People aren't following the guidelines. They're just going and doing their UN stuff. Let's get back to comments here. See that? All the city bikes. UN Hotel. What should I do at the UN Hotel? John Hoover. People should watch John Cohen's coronavirus investigation. It's on Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, and people can see that on Subscribestar and Patreon. Go by UNICEF in the corner across the street. I'm not sure where UNICEF is. Oh, is that it over there? Let's see if we can get to UNICEF. I don't know what UNICEF is going to tell me. You got Tudor City Steakhouse. What is this thing? Ole would have something to say about that. Some weird sculpture there. Do you work for the UN?
Yeah,
Can I do what? You don't work for the
No, I
UN?
don't work for the UN, no.
But you just said you did. Did you
I
lie?
don't hear you. I don't speak English.
You sound like you work for the UN and you're a liar. There's a lot of you in there. You're afraid if I come 6 feet away from you, something bad will happen? You're not wearing a coronavirus mask, and if you don't work for the UN, they're not going to let you enter, so we're about to prove you a liar, you globalist scumbag. I hope you get in right now, because then we'll know that you're lying. I hope these UN people know that I'm standing in the street, and this is the public. I'm allowed to stand here and film the globalist scumbags like Mr. What's-His-Name. Let's see if he walks in there. No, he's walking by. He doesn't speak English. Maybe he doesn't work there. Oh, looks like he does. So we now have documented proof that the UN is hiring liars. Is he going in? Is he going in? Some exchange. I don't really care what that guy does. Anyway, I'm getting annoyed. Homeless people. We've got the governor lying to us. Listen, when I contacted the hospital, I had legitimate questions. The legitimate question is, why does Dr. Colleen Smith, this is the kingdom of Bhutan, their permanent mission. I don't know much about that. Oh, there's a dentist. Not open. Wanted to ask the hospital, their official media representative, why the New York Times has published a statement from Dr. Colleen Smith that is directly contradicted by the official statement from the hospital, and I wanted to hear them say if there were enough ventilators and if they were getting to the patients who needed them. I also wanted to understand why they weren't working with groups like Samaritan's Purse or the UN. You know, this is supposed to be a humanitarian relief organization. They go to Syria with the white helmets or whoever runs that. They're going all over the world. We had an EMT tell us last week that it would take about 13 minutes to drive from approximately here to Queens. And why isn't the UN over there in Elmhurst making a triage hospital? I think it's a decent question. Maybe they don't know. I also wanted to ask the Elmhurst hospital media representative. Oh yeah, a siren. I also wanted to ask them if that Colleen Smith was going to continue seeing patients despite her positive test for coronavirus. Where are these ambulances? Well, I don't know if that was an ambulance or a cop car. Well, it's disappointing when I come to a place and they don't let me in. So we're being asked, how long are New Yorkers going to shelter in place? Well, that's just it. We don't know. Dr. Smith claims COVID positive so she can lay low for 14 days. Well, I don't want to accuse her of lying. Let's presume she's telling the truth. I mean, the test came back positive. James O'Keefe of Project Veritas just had a coronavirus test and it came back negative. So one of the interesting things, yeah, I agree. It sounds like a fire truck, Daniel, and we can't really tell if that's an ambulance or a cop car. Yeah, no, I know, wild tangent. If I'm accusatory, they're not going to. I just asked the guy if he worked for the UN, and he said yes, and then he said no. People who are polite and, you know, interact in a normal way, I'm polite with as well. But the second somebody starts acting like a jerk, I have no patience for that. What does this say? They shall beat their swords into plowshares. Oh, so someone's going to know about this. And their spears into pruning hooks. Nations shall not lift up sword against nation. neither shall they learn war anymore. What an ironic thing to put right here. So what is going on inside the UN? You know, we've got this apocalypse happening in Queens, and it doesn't look like the UN is scrambling any resources to do anything. It's the ambulance coming to get that guy who was collapsed on the street. Well, that's a good thing that woman called them. So NYU Langone, wow, they're right down the street with all those ambulances waiting, and that's how long it took them to get an ambulance to that guy who looked close to dead when I saw him? Okay. Can people see it? Oop. We got like super zoom going there. Using a different phone today. People who were watching yesterday will remember there were a couple of tech problems during the More Pain episode. It's not as easy as it looks to do these mobile productions, keep the batteries running, keep the sound going, keep the internet going. This is a cool spot. I can't say that I've been directly over here before, but let's check it out. I think this is an extremely fancy place to live, this sort of neighborhood of New York here near the UN. I guess probably a lot of international people like that guy who doesn't work for the UN and doesn't speak English. Maybe he lives around here. But I mean, he's not a tourist, right? So what's he doing here? Unless he's, sheltered in place, and then I guess he's just out for a nice walk. But I thought they were expelling everybody and taking them back to their countries. This is awesome. This can't be a health hazard at all. Mayor de Blasio, we've got a viral thing and you got just bags of garbage laying around. Excellent. Oh God, de Blasio's got to be fired. I guess these guys are doing something with tar, painting the road. It's a beautiful little park I haven't been to before. Tainted tests found in the UK from Montegraph Live. Hello. Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, again, that's not a surprise. I think we're hearing, US now tops the world for coronavirus cases. Well, so what does that mean? Is that a lot of people who, like Tom Hanks, have it? Or Chris Cuomo have it? I mean, they don't seem too worried about it. Andrew Cuomo is still joking around about cooking in the kitchen with his mom. And Tom Hanks is able to put out, cryptic tweets on Corona typewriters. I used to like Tom Hanks when I was just watching his movies and stuff, but I believe he is part of this gaslighting effort. I also want everybody to understand, I'm not saying that coronavirus is a hoax. That's just too non-specific of a statement. Coronavirus is a real thing. It's a family of viruses, and certainly you can get very sick. I think that this COVID-19 strain is not well understood in terms of who's getting fatally sick from it, who's getting sick and getting better, when it's, fatal, and when it's just no big deal and you can continue seeing patients and not answering questions about whether or not you know and work with Bill Ayers, who, by the way, is a Marxist revolutionary and wanted to destroy the American way of life, the government, the economy, re-educate everybody. And for those that couldn't be re-educated, Bill Ayers and his esteemed wife, Bernadine Dorn, they presumed they would need to kill 25 to 35 million Americans. I better not be in the street when I question these guys. They'll tell me to do something. But let's see what they say. So there's a little police outpost here. How you guys doing? How come there's so many counterterrorism units around but no standard patrols?
We're here every day.
You guys are here every day for the UN? But how about elsewhere around the city?
I don't know, I can only tell you where I am.
Has
I don't
the
keep track of everywhere.
has the brain dead mayor put the NYPD on stand down?
I don't know.
But you agree the mayor is brain dead, right?
I don't talk politics.
Got it.
Thank you, though.
Okay, so you've been given no special instructions regarding coronavirus?
I've been given some special instructions.
You're not wearing a mask.
Okay?
What kind of instructions did they give you?
I'm required to wear a mask.
That's interesting. What kind of instructions did they give you?
I'm not allowed to give them to you.
Why not?
Because I'm not. They were for me.
What can you tell me as a citizen as to why I'm seeing so few police around? I've been accosted by 2 homeless people. The A train is a
Go to
rolling.
the precinct and make a complaint report about it.
Say again?
You go to the precinct and make a complaint report.
10th precinct is the precinct in my district. I was physically attacked in 2015 and they refused to do anything. They advised that I drop the charges. Then when a stalker came to my house, person who's been stalking me for 2 years, someone came to my house, they refused to do anything. So the 10th precinct and going to the police after the fact is totally ineffective.
Okay, well, that's your opinion. I can't do anything.
The A train is a rolling homeless shelter and a petri dish. Why is the mayor and the NYPD not doing anything to address the homeless problem?
You're going to have to ask the mayor that.
I'd like to ask the mayor that. If I go to City Hall, will they let me in?
I don't know. I'm not there. I'm working here.
Normally it's locked. What's the...
You have to ask them.
I'll ask them.
I
Thanks.
don't work there.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's not a guy that I'm going to thank. I mean, you know, he's not being particularly helpful. I don't think that guy would do anything to help me. He seems more interested in smarty pants questions and you know, I don't think the police are very well trained as far as dealing with the public, and I think that's a big problem in this country, you know? It says courtesy, professionalism, and respect on the side of the car. Do people feel that that guy was treating me with courtesy, professionalism, or respect? Certainly the 10th precinct never has. Oh, Mike, if you're watching, take a look at the name of the street. I didn't even know that. Jimmy Breslin. We were just talking about him. All right, so now we're just sort of on a general walk here, heading back to the place. People can get an idea. The buses are having a little bit more traffic on them. I think people might remember that they said that they're not charging for buses. The back door is open now so that the drivers can, you know, not have to come close to people getting on. But that bus is still pretty, not too full. You know, we heard residents of the Bellevue men's home over there, which is not Bellevue Hospital, as incorrectly reported by the New York Post. I believe this is the Daily News right here, the news building. I'm not entirely sure though. But we heard residents of that men's shelter saying that there is room there. The first guy I spoke to looked healthy and well looked after. He certainly had clean clothes on, and you know, he appeared to have been recently showered and fairly, you know, uninjured and all that. Yeah, I am irritated. Sorry, Ainsley. I mean, you know, yes, please hit the like. For those who are not able to become sponsors of the show, the best thing to do is to share these videos, give it a thumbs up, put it out on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you do, email it to your family. If someone is telling you that New York is overrun, let them know that multiple hospital employees, as recently as today, have told me that their hospitals are not overrun. So when we have a situation where a hospital in Queens is overrun and other hospitals within 10 minutes of driving are not, that seems like more of a bureaucratic political problem, that we don't have an emergency plan in place. Where, why don't some of these government funds go to paying Mount Sinai, whatever, if they're outside of the city? Like, I don't know enough about the details of how these things work, but perhaps there's a way to use some of these emergency funds instead of paying the Carpenters Union to build a triage hospital at the Javits Center. Maybe we could pay for an already existing hospital to take some of these patients from the hospital in Queens, and then perhaps Dr. Colleen Smith would not have coronavirus right now. So that would seem to help her. This is Pfizer that we're looking at right now. That is a huge building, isn't it? That's Pfizer. I've been in that building. Pfizer was a client of 21st Century 3D. One of our early 3D productions were for a Pfizer product called VFend. I don't remember what that does. I think maybe arthritis or something. It was an awesome 3D video. So, yeah, people are welcome. I appreciate the people who are thanking me for walking around and doing this. I'd like to ask this woman, how you guys doing? Everything good? You guys good?
Yeah.
What's it like for young kids? Everything's cool?
Yeah.
You having fun? No school, right? No school.
Chocolate at home. It's forbidden.
You guys stay safe, huh? I'm concerned about little kids. This is, you know, the longer this goes on, they're going to be confused, they're going to be scared, their social development is stunted, their school careers are affected. I mean, we're going to have like an entire generation of people who are a year behind. I guess I could go back to right here by Grand Central. I might as well go through there. I mean, what could happen, right? Another homeless attack? May need to run into Allie again. Yes, April T. That's a good idea. After this coronavirus pandemic lifts, hopefully I'll get an email from her. Ainsley, I'm glad you like the videos. I really do appreciate the support coming from everybody. I am within striking distance of 100,000 subscribers, so if you are not subscribed and you're watching this video, please hit the subscribe button, and I think you need to click the bell as well. A lot of people tell me that they don't get notifications. A lot of people tell me that they're automatically unsubscribed even when they don't want to. So make sure you are subscribed. Yeah, the mods, Grant, I don't want to do it. There's porn bots, you know, they're there. That's part of the social engineering. Oh yes. So I forgot to go into the details of the social engineering. So this is good topic for the walk back. So, okay, people who have been watching for, 3 years. I've been doing this, we're coming up on 3 years. I think I actually started in about October of 2016, but I was just making videos sporadically. I mentioned last week that Univision tried to strike one of the videos that I had made, one of the very first videos that I had made. I started doing this because I just noticed a lot of fake news and false information being spread, coincidentally, about Donald Trump. I wasn't even a Trump voter or supporter at that time. I have become a big supporter of the president, and I think he's doing an excellent job. Not so much with the coronavirus, but I don't blame him for that. I believe that they've used this coronavirus to essentially put Trump in a box. They probably told him something like, listen, we control these coronavirus tests, and either you do what we say, or your test is coming back positive, and then you're out of there, and Mike Pence is gonna do what we say. So, I mean, Trump has done a lot of things that don't make sense, and I'm not basing this on any kind of QAnon theory. I'm just looking at what he's doing. He went from coronavirus is a hoax, it's the flu, it's the whatever he said about it, everybody get back to work, to a 180-degree turnaround where we're at war with coronavirus. And that's not the only thing. When it all came out that the senators, the congressional reps were insider trading, particularly Nancy Pelosi, TruePundit.com had a story yesterday about Nancy Pelosi investing in Amazon. So in other words, someone told her, we're going to put the entire world on lockdown, and retail is going out of business, travel industry is going to sink, hotels, all that. Sell all your stocks in that and buy up stocks in Amazon. Nancy Pelosi, according to TruePundit.com, has made about $5 million off of the back of all of the Americans that are home suffering, people who are watching their Small businesses evaporate before their lives, laying off employees who perhaps they've had on staff for years. So Pelosi's making millions off of this. That guy was eyeballing me in a not too friendly way. That is one of the most, if not the most reprehensible thing I have ever heard come out of Congress. Nancy Pelosi has absolutely got to be prosecuted. And I understand that there's a law that basically allows Congress to do insider trading. That's got to change. They should not be able to do that. Our taxes pay for them to be put into a position where they can then benefit from this historic suffering. Yeah, John, I'm going to go inside Grand Central Station right now. I'm heading there. I'm just about there. I think I'm a little bit below it. This is Park. There it is. So we've been into Grand Central Station with Charles. It was definitely way calmer. Yeah, Ainsley, the media forced me to become a Trump supporter. And he doesn't pick the right people for his administration, Diane is saying. Yeah, I mean, again, I wonder to what extent is he picking them or are they being forced upon him? Definitely don't like Wilbur Ross. Definitely don't like Steve Mnuchin. Ah, there's a legitimate NYPD vehicle. We've seen one. Another viewer was asking me yesterday if I could go back and go to some of the other videos that I made walking around New York City pre-coronavirus. Here's a Verizon truck. People were also asking about 5G installation. I don't think we can presume anything. Verizon is fixing telephones of all kinds all over the city. Here's the NYPD. Transport. So that's not a regular car. Wait a minute now. So somebody, oh yeah, they wanted me to go back and kind of catalog all the videos as far as, you know, how many sirens you could hear on a normal day in a normal video. And the answer is I don't know. And I definitely don't have time to do that, but people can go back into the archives of Crowdsource the Truth and look at those videos and make some kind of audit of how frequently we hear a siren from a police car and an ambulance on a normal day, and how I think we've heard 2 today, and 1 essentially was called, not by me, but by someone that I alerted to the need. So does that count as 0 or 2 or 1? Sorry, it counts as 1. So here's Grand Central Station. Yeah, this is pretty empty. Now granted, this is 3 o'clock. This would be a low time in Grand Central because it's not lunchtime, it's not rush hour, but there would be people here. There's a ton of Army dudes here. Are any of you guys able to speak to me? This person? Are you the commanding officer of this unit? Are you able to speak to me about what you guys are doing here? The Joint Task Force Empire Shield?
Yes. We've been around since 9/11.
That I know.
Okay. So we're here in all the transit hubs since then.
And what is the mission?
Mission? To detect and deter any
terrorism activity.
Yes.
So is coronavirus considered terrorism activity?
Not at the moment.
Are you guys detecting any terrorism activity? Is there some terrorism over there? Okay, have fun. Thanks, guys. I also don't want to thank them because I object to having the Army in public places unless there is some imminent terrorism going to happen. I think the police are supposed to be here. The Army is definitely not trained to interface with the public, and I don't think there's any terrorism planned for right here. It doesn't seem like it. How you officers doing? These guys are here to deter terrorism. Are you aware of any terrorism in Grand Central right now?
Are you recording us?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Have a good day. Thank you.
You guys don't want to talk to me?
No, thanks.
But I thought anytime I interact with the police, they're recording me, right?
No. I have a body camera.
You guys aren't NYPD, you're MTA police. Uh-huh. No coronavirus masks. Oh, there you got them on the belt.
Very observant.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Very observant. Okay, thanks. Is that the courtesy, the professionalism, or the respect? Or that's just NYPD that's supposed to do that? Exactly. You too. See, that's a lack of all of those things. They don't want to talk. And then they say, call the public information officer, and you do that, and they don't want to talk. So, you know, if people think that I'm not being polite or whatever, okay. But being polite, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be polite. They're not going to tell me anything. Foreign men are now our anti-terror force. Unbelievable. We got hoodwinked. Not stupid, rude questions. Wake up. Hey, 2012 Anonymous USA, you go do this. I'll ask whatever questions I like. And Minnie Rodriguez has got it. They are assholes. They need to be a lot nicer to people. They treat everybody like a suspect. Those cops should be given a response that's not rude. Like, sir, we're specifically mandated not to speak with you. Here's a phone number you can call for the official public information. Not just have a nice day, screw off. That seems like a bunch of jerks hanging out in a bar giving me guff. I don't know. I mean, when I've called the police for actual help, they haven't helped me. When I've tried to be nice to the police, they're not nice to me. So this is how I behave towards them. I wouldn't do any violence towards the police. That would be insane. So here's a lineup of taxis. They're always waiting because there's nobody riding them. Whew. Hidden camera. I have a hidden camera, but it's not as easy as people think. These hidden cameras don't work like they work in James Bond or whatever. They are not easily integrated into live streams. The one that I have gets really hot, so it was like burning my chest because it's got like a printed circuit board that it needs to be like taped to the shirt. It's just not quite perfect. Now, this is a building, I can't remember what this is. I think it's a bank, which would make sense. What does it say? 10 Vanderbilt Avenue. People watching will figure out what this is. What about Uber? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody would be driving for Uber right now because they'd be afraid about getting crony victims in their car. I think we're getting close to retired cop. They are assholes and corrupt to boot. Well, it's possible. False flag could be coming along. I mean, people have been saying that. I think it's not entirely useful to, a lot of people are sending me like, hey, do you think a comet is going to hit? Or do you think that some completely outrageous thing is about to happen? I don't know. I mean, we could speculate about anything. I don't really like to speculate about things I have no evidence to support. Oh yeah, wait a minute. I almost forgot this whole other line I was going to go down. Well, we're going to explain some more about social engineering and why it's so, dangerous and destructive. So people have been watching the show for the full 3 years will remember that I was first partnered with a guy who turned out to be a social engineer. And I don't want to mention his name because he does not deserve publicity or promotion. He is someone who has lied repeatedly, provably. And somebody sent me in a message yesterday or the other day saying, I'm calling you out. You got to put up or shut up. You keep saying stuff about this guy. I don't have to put up or shut up. You have to go back into the archives and look at the videos. They're all there. And those explain what I'm talking about. But let's talk about something specific. This guy that I'm talking about spent a lot of time telling everybody, Imran Awan, he's the guy. He's hacking BlackBerries. He's Anthony Weiner's trusted staff. He's the mastermind behind hacking BlackBerries and everything Hillary Clinton and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that Imran Awan was innocent. He was very likely a criminal. We had a lot of evidence that he was a criminal. But there were some strange things that this social engineer who I'm talking about did relative to Imran Awan. Like when Imran was around, I'm the one who ran down the street to talk to him and ask him tough questions that made him and his lawyer uncomfortable. I'm the one who went and spoke to the witness who had a computer that Imran hacked, according to her, had a cell phone that Imran hacked, according to her, not a BlackBerry, by the way. So it stands to reason that Imran was just a all-around hacker, knew how to use the tools to hack whatever phone you want. And just in recent days, I've come to suspect that Imran Awan might have been a user of the hacking tools that hacked the BlackBerries and enabled this encrypted private communication over a network of BlackBerries. And I'll go into some detail as to why I think that, but I also want people to understand the term a limited hangout. Because there's a lot of people who make these YouTube channels where they say, "Oh, I'm a truth teller and I'm sharing the truth with you." And they'll say something, maybe explosive and inflammatory that you would not hear on CNN or Fox News or the New York Times or other places. And so you're caused to believe that this person is a revolutionary truth-telling kind of person who can be trusted and, that sort of thing. A limited hangout is a term that was coined by like Richard Nixon, or maybe was it John Haldeman? He had all these, all the president's men. There's one of these tapes that was released from the White House during the Watergate period where Nixon expresses that he's nervous having all this sensitive information just hanging out there. So it was suggested that they could release a certain amount of damaging information to basically make everybody think they were fessing up, but they were going to cover the most damaging information, and so this would be sort of a limited hangout, and people would believe them because they'd feel like, ooh, they're revealing this evidence of wrongdoing, so they must be coming clean, but in fact, they're covering up. So back to the BlackBerry thing, we've got this tall, drunk, irresponsible guy who's running around spreading information based on no evidence or manipulated evidence or partial evidence, and he wants everybody to think that Imran Awan is the epicenter of this criminality. And we now know that basically Imran was pinched for bank fraud. Very weird criminal prosecution of that guy, at the end of which he got a plea deal, which many people have described as unprecedented, unbelievable plea deal that absolved him of any crimes that he had done in his entire life up until then, and basically, made it impossible to prosecute him for that stuff. But I'm not convinced that Imran Awan was the big fish in that matter. This was all going on 2016, 2017, and here's this article. This is from the FBI about how they busted this international criminal communications service called Phantom Secure. Now, this was a company out of Canada that was making a custom computer hardware chip, some sort of encryption chip that they were modifying BlackBerries with. And once this chip was inside the BlackBerry, it enabled some super duper form of encryption that allowed criminal networks to conduct money laundering and murder for hire and child trafficking and all kinds of illicit stuff, I guess, over the BlackBerry using this encrypted communication. So if you're the NSA or whoever, you can't intercept these communications and know what's going on. So if you're Hillary Clinton, theoretically, and you wanted to use a private email server for convenience or to communicate illegal activity or whatever reason you might want to use a private server, not just private email, this is private email on a private domain that's not a US government domain, hillaryclinton.com, that she controls. And the server is not controlled by any kind of public entity like Google that could be subpoenaed by the FBI. It's run out of her house. I mean, it's so wildly criminal and inappropriate. The fact that she was able to talk away the problem is really unbelievable. Now, so here's more police. They're wearing the counterterrorism jacket. So there's a lot of counterterrorism police around, but that's it. So we discussed the other day on Discovery CSI, David Hawkins' Friday show, that it didn't make a lot of sense that these Blackberries were getting smashed by a hammer. Yeah, SRG, this is the Strategic Response Group. Excuse me, officers. Do you guys know Sergeant Hanley from the Strategic Response Group? Manley.
Can't tell you.
No. What SRG does it work?
He was over by the Javits Center the other day. I was just asking him, as I go around the city, it really seems like there's a reduced NYPD presence.
Members of the public are reminded to keep a safe distance of 6 feet from others while in public places to reduce the spread of the coronavirus.
Is that 6 feet?
From CRC, not SRG.
No, he was. Strategic Response Group.
Yeah. We have 5, so we have 5 SRG, so it's like
5 people is the total?
No, 5 subunits. That 1 is Manhattan, 2 is the Bronx, 3 is Brooklyn, 4.
Well, this was Manhattan. It was over by the Javits Center.
We got a new guy.
New guy. Is there a reduction in NYPD presence? Like, why do we have the Strategic Response Group here, but no police down in the subway?
Somebody at police headquarters for that. I can't tell you. I don't know. I'm just here.
Got it. Thanks, fellas. Well, at least they were polite, except for this guy who's blaring the radio. They don't need to do that. On David Hawkins' Discovery CSI on Friday, we were discussing how the smashing of the Blackberries is not an efficient way to destroy the data on there, because Blackberries and other cell phones, they utilize non-volatile random access memory, NAND RAM, and basically that type of memory chip, even if you smash it with a hammer, if any portion of the chip remains, a portion of the data can be recovered from a forensic investigation. So given Hillary Clinton's understanding of bit-level erasure of computer data based on her use of bleach bit, we should presume that they're aware that that is the most effective way to destroy digital data. And why wouldn't they just do a bit-level erase on the BlackBerry and then give it to the FBI and say, see, there's nothing on it? The smashing of the BlackBerry might make sense if you were trying to destroy an encryption chip inside there. It does stand to reason that if that were even slightly damaged, it might fail to carry out its role of decrypting the data, rendering all the data on the BlackBerry unreadable. So again, I'm not saying that this is definitive evidence of anything, but it's curious that we never heard about Phantom Secure from this social engineer who was allegedly all over the criminal activity of Imran Awan. I think that guy took certain strategic opportunities to actually assist Imran Awan. When I met with Laurel Everly and she told me that Imran freaked out when there was a flood in the basement, and we found a photograph that indicated that there was a cable internet router in the basement that Laurel was unaware of, and that Imran had a shed off the garage which had an air conditioner on it that he refused to turn off because he said he needed to keep the contents cool. That caused me to believe that Imran had a server in the shed. And then this same social engineer that I'm talking about went to 4809 Sprayer Street, and he showed the audience a totally different shed. Why did he do that? See that? Courtesy, professionalism, respect? None of it. There's another ambulance, no siren. Why did he do that? Why did he show everybody the wrong shed? Maybe he's not a social engineer. Maybe he's totally incompetent. Maybe he was drunk at the time that he was making that video. But people who think that that guy knows what he's talking about are either confused, being socially engineered by him, which I'm trying to help you avoid, or they're social engineers themselves. So I want people to be very careful for that. And the reason why this is important, it's like the Karate Kid, right? Remember when Mr. Miyagi, he had the Karate Kid washing the car and waxing the car, and he was getting annoyed because there's the bank of coronavirus. He was getting annoyed because he felt like it had nothing to do with learning karate. But when he got done becoming an expert at washing the car and waxing the floor in the way that Mr. Miyagi told him, the muscle memory and the technique, that got him into the karate right away. So what I'm suggesting is if we can recognize social engineers in social media and the ways in which they are attempting to manipulate our perception, perhaps it could help us recognize social engineers in mainstream media and government. Because it seems to me there are a lot of them who want to convince you of things that maybe aren't true. And maybe the data that they're using is derived from inconsistent facts. I don't know if they're facts, but it's certainly strange to me that Tom Hanks gets the coronavirus and it's no big deal. He can tweet and he can travel on a plane from Australia back to Los Angeles, but everybody in Elmhurst, Queens gets the coronavirus and they get thrown into a truck like a bag of dirt. Incidentally, there's a lot of people who are saying, my fiance's sister knows a guy who works at a hospital that said that there's a lot of coronavirus. Okay, so I mean, that's not exactly firsthand information. I'd love to hear from someone who does have firsthand information. People will remember that we had, I don't want to use the guy's name. We had an ICU nurse on the show. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago at this point. I'm going to try to get him back and see how the ICU is going. He told us he was working at a major Midwest hospital and it was not overloaded 2 weeks ago or a week ago, whatever that was. I seem to recall, fake doctors like Paul Cottrell telling us that we were going to have exponential growth and that every week it was going to be more and more. I don't know. Has that happened? Do we get information verified, or is it just coming from that Johns Hopkins website? The WHO is making all these recommendations based on data. John Cullen was telling us that the data, even if we take it all as true, that very data can be manipulated in a lot of ways. Like, in other words, they're telling us we have the most cases in the United States. So that means the largest number of positive tests for COVID-19. But how many total tests have there been versus China, versus South Korea? We've heard President Trump saying many times that the United States is doing many more tests than other countries. So it would stand to reason that there are many more positive results, particularly given that Fauci and other people keep saying, well, don't get the test unless you're sick. So, I mean, if you're eliminating all the people who aren't exhibiting symptoms, you might be skewing the test towards positive results. I don't know. Other people who know more about statistics and stuff can speak more intelligently about that. But I think what we want to know is what's the total number of tests. I think we probably would want a randomized test of people who maybe don't have symptoms and how many of those people test positive. And then I also would like to know how many people test positive and then after a certain period of time either remain positive or are no longer positive or become sick or don't become sick. It seems like we would want to study that if we're interested in a cure, but just publishing numbers that say, 100,000 people have it, it doesn't seem to teach us much other than everybody should stay in their house and be very afraid of coronavirus. So here's like a lot of police activity on this street, if parked cars count as activity. Let's see what the comments are saying. Yeah, the BS is piled high. Where is Pac-Man? I think he's in the computer. Or somewhere. I don't know. Pac-Man is somewhere in 1984. Remember, Trump said he was a germaphobe. Right. Well, they've made everybody into a germaphobe. People now get mad at you if you're not wearing a mask. 4,500 dead in the USA, according to stats being conveyed by John Cullen, equal to 1 week of October influenza. Right? That's very interesting, right? Now, these are NYPD traffic vehicles. Doesn't look like there's too many people in them. I think we're close to a precinct. The precinct is on this street. So this is just sort of where they park the cars. I saw those and people, it's just somebody's like tow truck or something with sirens on it. So head over to Central Park. Things are happening. Oh God, Pat, it's so far from here right now. I mean, I'd have to get on the subway and the broadcast would cut. Central Park and see if they're pulling kids out of the tunnels. No, man, that's some QAnon crap. I'm not going to chase down every stupid rumor. Sex bots are out of control. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I mean, think about that. When we have morons like Cliff High coming into the comments and there's a million sex bots there, did anybody notice when I was in Cliff High's comments? It was just me. There were no sex bots. So who's bringing these sex bots? Is it, coincidence? Sorry about that, but I don't want to have moderators, and I hope no one takes personal offense at that, because I just don't. We'll start trying to get rid of the some of these bots here. But yeah, these are parked police cars. I think I just walked by no, it's on the next block over here. Event 201. Yes, that's right, Carla. That's something that people really need to look at. Event 201. And I mean, we were talking about that on David Hawkins' Discovery CSI. I don't want to bother the police anymore. They're not telling me anything. We were talking about Event 201 on David Hawkins' Discovery CSI. And one of the things that was very interesting is that one of the primary conclusions of Event 201 was that they needed a more realistic simulation. There's a lot of NYPD traffic cars parked. So the other thing that people wanted to see on this walk around was, is Verizon installing 5G? Look, it does make sense that 5G may be a health hazard. We've heard that it uses microwave energy. We know that microwave energy is dangerous. If you cook food with it, it gets very hot. And certainly if somebody pointed microwave energy at you, it seems like that would be bad. But we don't know that there's a correlation between what's going on with coronavirus and 5G. And also, the notion that this event is somehow hiding the installation of 5G makes no sense. 5G is something that they're advertising and they are telling people they're installing. They have big signs around that boast about 5G. So they're not trying to install it in any kind of covert way. And we've got to use logic, everybody. We got to try to use our heads. You can't just read any crazy post on Twitter or 4chan and suddenly think that it's true. I do not believe that there's any evidence that there's kids underground in Central Park. And by the way, you could research that a lot and not come up with anything definitive, because there are a lot of tunnels in Central Park. And I just don't have any confidence that I'm going to be able to find anything worthwhile by going there. I do think that the Samaritan's Hospital that they're building there, certainly that woman Melissa that we spoke to, I believe, is there for the right reasons and a well-intentioned person. Yeah, the porn bots, they're hard to deal with, especially on the walk. And so that's what they're trying to do. There's a bunch of social engineers who initially wanted me to join them and share their message. Remember that guy Frank Bacon who called me? Go on to the Crowdsource the Truth channel and search the YouTube channel, the Jason Goodman channel, for Frank Bacon and listen to that idiotic call. Hobby Lobby I have not seen in New York City, Ruby Tuesday. But they wanted me to join their scheme. They wanted me to share their information and gaslight everybody the way that they do. And when I refused to do that, then they started wanting to attack me and ultimately sue me. And as I've alleged in the lawsuit, I think there are connections between all these people. And when I point them out, they say, ooh, conspiracy theorist. But I believe there's evidence of a conspiracy. And if the courts ever reopen and we have an opportunity to go to court in Virginia, I believe that's going to be proven. Trump stated it with his original statement to the masses. We're doing away with an old system for a new system. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think something like that makes sense. You know, in my mind, the most plausible thing that we've heard is, as the Moriartys told us, when Vladimir Putin rebuffed Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia and refused to join the price-fixing cabal of OPEC. Putin refused to slow Russian oil production to keep the price high. This was the most effective challenge to the petrodollar system in its nearly 50-year history. And basically, I believe Putin assassinated the petrodollar. And I'm not blaming Putin. I'm not saying Putin is the enemy. I think he was doing what was strategically best for Russia. And since he's the president of Russia, that's all we can really expect him to do. I think the Democrats and the social engineering liars in our government and mainstream news, who have spent 4 years demonizing Russia and putting our president in a position where he couldn't deal with Putin even if he wanted to, I think they had more to do with the destruction of the petrodollar than Putin did. We could have been having a great trade relationship with Russia right now. We could have been partnered with them in eradicating some of the radical, crazy mercenary terrorists that are destroying Libya and Syria and Yemen. I mean, Trump's got why are we assisting Saudi Arabia with that war? It's not good. But, this would at least make sense, because if what Putin did has such a negative effect on the petrodollar, it would collapse the U.S. economy. And all of this would be happening unprompted by the coronavirus. So at least if they can get us all in our houses and say that the economy is failing because of a virus, then people like Nancy Pelosi have the plausible deniability to say, hey, it's not our fault, it's coronavirus. If everybody knew that they've been lying about everything to do with Russia, and that they've been just, trying to take care of themselves and make millions of dollars off of insider trading, off of information that they have about lies that they're going to tell us while everybody goes broke, I think people would be pissed. And I'm not saying this is the right answer. We don't know. Maybe we'll never find out. We still don't know exactly what happened with the JFK assassination. We still don't know exactly what happened on 9/11. We still don't know exactly what happened with the Las Vegas shooting, the Florida school shooting, the Sandy Hook shooting. There's so many of these events that we don't know about. And people say, oh, you must be a conspiracy theorist. How could this be true? How could all these people know? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a different story. That's a different show. But it's interesting that when I ask simple questions of people like Dr. Colleen Smith and the official media representatives for the hospital that she works at, they don't want to answer my questions. They want to answer questions as they're posed by the New York Times and NBC News and 60 Minutes Australia. So that's curious. That's something for people to think about. But I want to thank everybody for watching. We're going to have another episode of High Dive with Lee Stranahan. That's tonight at 8 o'clock. And that's a sponsor exclusive show that's available on Patreon and Subscribestar. Some people weren't too happy with the way Lee I actually can smell something on fire. It smells like plastic. Ooh. That's nasty. Yeah, those guys said they could smell dead bodies. I didn't smell that. This looks like somebody who works for the hospital, but she's on the phone. Do you work at a hospital? Is it overrun with coronavirus patients?
Not overrun, but...
What hospital you work at?
Bellevue.
Bellevue. I was just over there. They've got, well, no, I was at NYU Langone where they've got the triage morgue. I don't mean to interrupt you. Thank you.
But yes,
Be safe. Not overrun.
we're doing what
How
we
come?
can.
How come they're not bringing patients from Elmhurst Hospital to Bellevue? You saw on the news that Elmhurst Hospital is overrun, right?
Right. Well, what they really should do is take the
Non-corona.
non-COVID patients out of the hospital to these pop-up places. You don't want to maybe cross-contaminate.
But But they say it's overrun. Do you know Dr. Colleen Smith? Are you a physician or you're a nurse?
I'm a nurse, yes.
Do you know Colleen Smith?
No.
Do you think any doctor at Bellevue Hospital would enter the ER or the ICU with a recording video camera?
That I would not 100% know. I have no idea.
But you wouldn't do that, right? It's a major HIPAA violation, or at least it approaches the possibility.
Oh, you're saying like a doctor doing that? Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. Of course, yeah, no.
Never
yeah,
would.
Yeah. I thought you were saying if you were
No,
getting
not me.
approval,
No,
if someone would allow you to.
But a doctor would just never do that, right?
They shouldn't.
Thank you very much. Be safe.
Yes.
Thanks for your help. That was nice. There we go. So see, sometimes people are willing to talk, and it's amazing. Like, is that woman lying? I don't know. I don't think so. What would motivate her to lie? She said, convid. Yeah, she did. All right. But, I don't know, get her number? I'm not going to get everybody's number that I talk to. All right, everybody, I'm almost back. And I don't think there's too much else to see around here. That was no accent. That was just a person from New York. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you're financially secure and if you're watching and enjoying the show, please become a sponsor. I can't do these shows without the sponsorship of the viewers. I think people see what happens when you get your information from NBC or CBS. And certainly if we rely on monetization from Google via YouTube, they can shut these things down and prevent you from getting this information. So it's really important that you help me build a strong network of Crowdsource the Truth co-hosts and guests and contributors by becoming a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And just so everybody knows that we are live, 52 degrees on a spring day here. Please also remember to sponsor the co-hosts. Now's a great time to dig into some of that sponsor-exclusive content. Everybody's home. I'm talking about a lot of topics that I think you're going to want to educate yourself about so you can understand what's going on and so that you can know when someone is trying to lie to you. Get a gun or a Rottweiler. Well, I think a Rottweiler would destroy my apartment, and I'm working on getting a gun. You got to apply through the NYPD to get a permit, so it's a process. But what is one gun going to do if it comes down to needing a gun? I don't know. Anyway, on that note, don't forget to watch John Cullen's coronavirus investigation on Friday, another sponsor-exclusive show. There's really just so many great sponsor-exclusive shows on Patreon and Subscribestar. Today's the first day of the month, so it's an excellent time to join. Going to get a great value for your money and lots of great shows that you can watch with your family while you're at home. And you guys decide what is going on. Thanks for watching, everybody.